What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Roughing the Passer. As always, my name's Drew DH, and with me is Mr. Newman, fresh back from Toronto. Man, how was that trip?
It let me back into the States, surprisingly, and there was no
That's
body
good.
cavity search, so I was pleased about that as well.
Well, good deal. Yeah. So, John, you were up there in Toronto. What's up at the Sports Card Expo up there? How was that? So, while we're
Yeah,
getting into things,
heavy hockey. I'm drinking a Wayne Gretzky beer.
nice.
He
I
was a
saw
better goal. He's a better goal scorer than beer maker, but it's still pretty good.
that. All right. Well, let's go right into it, man. We got a busy episode today. Little different than usual. I know we have one guest definitely calling in a little later, but guys, I've put the link down below, so feel free to call in whenever you'd like, as always, to discuss anything. But John, let's go through the scoreboard. So right now, updated at least. Not what the score says right there, but the Rams currently up 10-0 over the Bears. Then you go into one of the bigger games of the week, and one of the games that everyone thought was going to be a whole lot closer than it turned out to be, and that was the Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans, a battle of two of the AFC heavyweights. And man, John, I know this pains you to probably say because it's Baltimore we have to talk about here, but dude, Baltimore 41-7, quite impressive.
They're the real deal. It's Houston that I just when you start buying their stock,
Yeah,
I mean they tank.
I know.
This is kind of a sneak peek at two playoff teams,
Yeah,
or could potentially be a playoff matchup. And Baltimore took them to the woodshed. So
yeah.
if you're a Houston fan, you're probably not feeling too good. I mean, there's losing, and then there's 41-7.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a game that this is a game that if you're Houston, you have to get up for. And Baltimore, man, I'm one of those people. I didn't want to believe it at first. I like the Ravens. I have nothing against them, like you do, off the top of my head, being a division rival. But this is a team that I just couldn't buy into, and I did not think was the real deal. I did not think Lamar Jackson was going to be able to hold up in these situations. And I mean, he's proving time and time again, every single big game, Jackson has been on top of his game, whether it be throwing the ball, running the ball. I mean, today, 4 touchdowns in the air. I mean, the kid's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and they're playing defense
Yeah.
pretty good now too. So yeah, it hurts to say. Yeah, they look like contenders.
No, they absolutely do. All right, and so
Yeah.
moving on down into the schedule, you also had the New Orleans Saints winning a divisional game pretty handily today, 34-17 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pretty Drew Brees getting the New Orleans Saints right back into it. The Bucs just cannot seem to do anything right. It seems no matter what they do, something goes wrong. Jameis Winston had another awful game. I don't know where you go from here with him. I don't know if he stays. I mean, well, let's just start right there. Does Jameis Winston? Do you think he stays the Tampa Bay quarterback next year?
I'll answer that sort of, but not really with the question. But I guess it depends on who's in the quarterback room. I mean, right now he's probably the best one, but
Yeah.
I think what's apparent now is they got to go out and get somebody, whether that's in the draft, whether that's get somebody that someone else can move, maybe like a Nick Foles or someone that's not starting but is starter quality that wants out. Teddy Bridgewater comes to
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
So really, I think I'll answer that like this. I don't think they want them to be. So it's a matter of who do they get? Do they go draft route and get someone that maybe can start right away and take a little bit of lumps again, or do you go more someone with experience and that can start that teams that have, if you will, two starters that will move one of them? So
Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes down to.
No, I agree with you. I think, I mean, Tampa's in a tough situation. It's odd that draft with him and Mariota. I really didn't think either of them were going to be starter quality potential, and you're seeing it now. And really, your prove it year, both of them struggling mightily. I mean, Mariota obviously getting benched, and I think Winston, if the Bucks had a Tannehill, I think Winston would be benched. But like you said, it depends on who's on the roster. And right now, they don't have anybody. They have nobody that can compare to Winston. And so I think he's got to stay, at least in terms of this year. But if I'm Tampa, with as good as this quarterback offseason is supposed to be, I mean, if I'm Tampa, I know Carolina is going to be looking for one, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But if I'm Tampa, you've got to look to at least bring somebody in there to push him. At least bring somebody in there to challenge him in camp and push him in the preseason and push him even into the beginning of the regular season if you're sold on him, because consistency is still like light years away.
Yeah, well, I think the question whether he's the quarterback of the future has been answered. I think that's a resounding no. It's just you got to have someone else you can put in, and right now they don't. Like you said, if they had like a Tannehill, Mariota situation, he'd be watching football rather than playing football. They don't have that yet. I think that's going to be an offseason. It's on the to-do list in the offseason. It's probably the first thing on the top of the list.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, but interesting game to say the least. Moving on, you also had the New York Jets beating the Washington Redskins 34-17. Washington is absolutely they're falling apart. The Jets absolutely needed this game, I think. Little bit of a statement win for the Jets. Haskins, obviously, with his first start, did not go particularly well, which I don't think anyone expected it to. But interesting one to say the least. And we're going to run through the rest of the scores real quick because we've got a special guest we're going to bring in here, and we'll talk about all the games we got going on. So you also had Atlanta over the Panthers. You 29-3. We'll move on. You also had the Minnesota Vikings over the Broncos 27-23. Oakland over Cincinnati 17-10. New England over Philly 17-10. Then you also had Jacksonville and Indy with the win 33-13. And then Dallas 35 over Detroit 27. San Francisco with an impressive comeback win over Arizona 36-26. And Buffalo kicking the shit out of Miami 37-20, just like I thought they were. So quite a few interesting games. Some you would say predictable. A couple of them not quite as predictable, John. But right now we're going to bring in a special guest. He's been on the show once before. You guys have seen him, and I know a lot of you guys on Facebook at least, and in the card world know him, but that is Mr. Ryan Durkee. So we're going to go on and pull him in. And Ryan, what's going on, bud?
What's up, man? How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, sure, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's see here. Oh, there we go. All right. So I don't know. I guess we'll start out with the first game. We hadn't got a chance to really touch on many of the games at all, but your Patriots, big game today, dude. Started out slow. That was the game that was on after Carolina, so that was the game that I got a chance to watch most of. But I don't know. New England ekes out a win, but what do you take away from that game from both teams? Because that was a very competitive game, and a game that I thought either team really could have ran away with, but they just didn't.
The homer in me wants to say that when you look at it, when most NFL teams plan a game planned, the first 15 to 20 games are scripted, and they run with them no matter what. And if you look at the game, the Eagles put up 3 points in the first quarter, and then 7 early in the second half on what I believe was a TD. So I'm not trying to say that wasn't. But after that, they were shut out. And I think when it comes down to it, Belichick, McDaniels, our defensive staff just made adjustments to, I mean, for it is what it is. We put up 17 unanswered. But I also don't think our offense is one that's going to be able to come back from a big deficit. So if our defense doesn't come out strong, we're in trouble if we have to come back from 14, 21 or more, or whatever.
Yeah. No, I can easily see that, especially, I mean, when I look at the Patriots, the biggest problem that I see with you guys, at least on the offensive side of the ball, would be I don't see any plays that are going over the top. Like, I don't see anybody that's taking the top off. And like you said, coming from behind is going to be a major problem. But the passing game scares me a little bit, but you guys did pull it out today. So nice win, 17-10 over the Eagles. But Ryan, I know I was talking to you a little bit before today, and it was one of the topics that we had here that I wanted to go over. So we're going to go on and talk about it because I know you had a couple of feelings on it. And that's the San Francisco 49ers. And my question is, are the 49ers for real? Because they come back today and they beat the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they've got one of the better records in the NFC. But, John, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, Ryan. When you look at the 49ers, do either of you guys really buy their record as – are they as good as their record is, or are they a team that's kind of some smoke and mirrors here?
If you say for real, meaning Super Bowl contender, the Hoist and Lombardi, I'll say no. But, they're a very good team. I just don't think right now they've got what it takes to win 3 or 4 games that you need to win to hold up that. Or Jimmy Garoppolo's playing good, but he has, even today, he threw a couple picks, ill-advised ones. When both of them, when they had points already on the board, in a sense, in field goal position, and where as a quarterback, you just, anyone will tell you, just don't throw a pick here. You got points, and he did. They had to come back at the end. That the score was 10 points. They scored with a minute left to win the game. And they scored, quite frankly, on a zero blitz, meaning Arizona sent the house and no safety. And the receiver, actually the running back, ran an underneath route, caught it, and it was just no one there in the second level. He just pretty much walked in. So, Arizona took a risk, and they got burnt by it. And they didn't have any time left to. By the time they got the ball back, they had less than 40 seconds left, and not much. They wound up the pass. The receiver coughed it up, and game over. So, no, I don't think they're Super Bowl worthy yet, but they can give some teams grief and some trouble.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, I know you've been waiting to talk about this. So the 49ers, are they for real?
I think they suck. I think the Seahawks, the Saints, Green Bay Packers, the Vikings would mop the floor with them. Yeah. First round playoffs, I think it's going to be quote unquote an upset because they are going to get home field advantage. Yeah. So not first round, but wild card on divisional weekend. Mm-hmm. I think they are done, and I think I will come on the show with you, and we will have a toast to Jimmy Garoppolo's fake funeral, and hopefully I'll be celebrating the same. Well, no, the Pats play on Sunday because they'll be the first seed, so we'll be celebrating Jimmy Garoppolo's fake funeral and rooting on some other team to win the next round.
Yeah. Hey, you got 2 different opinions right there. I'm kind of split right down the middle. As John points out, they are 9-1. So they've got got a good record, but I'm right there with you. I watch them, and I don't know that Jimmy Garoppolo had to have. It's a good thing he turned that game around today, because the way that game started, if he didn't turn that game around today, it was going to be an embarrassment. I mean, it was going to be bad. I mean, I can't really talk about bad quarterback play. I know quite a bit about that, but I don't.
They won that game by 4 points.
Yeah.
That last play, and the kid John that just posted the comments, my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
They won that game by 4 points. If you're gonna win a home game, divisional, by 4 points,
mm-hmm.
and your quarterback doesn't show up for the first half at home, you have an issue. If he does that against a non-rookie quarterback or a non-contending team, a contending team, they're down way more than they should be going into the second half. And their offense is not sustainable to make up a deficit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. They're one injury. I mean, I know I don't know exactly what the report is and when people are coming back, but I know they're pretty beat up. Debo had a great game today. It was nice to see him finally show up a little bit. John, I know you were talking about Debo right before we were on the air. So, I mean, John, what do you think? I mean, are they a team that you think that can make a deep playoff run, or?
Ryan's not going to like what I'm about to say. I just preface that. I actually kind of compare them, and I'm not saying they're as good. I'm not saying they're on par. I just say they're sort of winning games similar to how England does it with defense at key times. So, I don't think their defense actually played great today, but I've seen that defense. You don't win 9 games by accident. And that defense, frankly, the defense is probably the stronger part of that team. And I think even for the Pats this year, their defense is playing lights out. So I think, I think the Patriots are a better team. I mean, if they were playing each other, I would pick the Patriots. But if there's been a few games this year where the 49ers defense just literally took over the game and won games. And again, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if that defense just gets nuts for a couple games, they could be, potentially. I'm not predicting this, but they could be in an NFC Championship game. I don't think they will be, but I think that defense is good enough to get Jimmy G very good game. It might be enough to get them to that round.
Yeah. Well, one way or another, we're gonna find out. Like I do think they're gonna probably have a pretty cakewalk to the number 1 seed in the NFC, unless it's a total collapse. But another team I wanted to touch on for just a moment with you, Ryan, before we go into one other thing, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, I see you laugh as soon as I say that. So I guess I'll ask both of you guys. Looking at this game today, they played Detroit, which isn't saying much, but they walk away 35-27. And this is it's been a couple Sundays in a row with a lot of really weird games. And you look at this game on paper and you think, if Dallas is going to be one of those teams that's going to actually make a run in the playoffs, if Dak is going to be one of those guys that's going to truly take them on, they should be mopping the floor with these teams. Instead, they're really struggling at times, at least at the beginning, to handle a team like Detroit. So when you look at Dallas, John, I'll start with you. I mean, when you look at Dallas, are they a team that has, what do you take away from this game? I don't know. I expected this to be maybe 35-10, not 35-27.
Yeah, well, I think Dak Prescott is, there's really good Dak Prescott, and then there's really average Dak Prescott. Defensively got some issues. They gave up 27 points to a Lions team without Matt Stafford, and not a great running game. So I think their problems lie more on the defensive side of the ball. Their offensive line's not what it has been the last few years. It's kind of downgraded. Again, they're another team. The thing is, they can score, Again, I'm not going to predict them to win the Super Bowl either, but they can score points, and if it gets to be a track meet, they could potentially win those games. I don't even like Dak Prescott that much, but he can play pretty good football at times. It's just you get into playoffs, you got to play pretty good football for 3-4 straight weeks.
Yeah.
Is he that guy? So he can't rely like the 40. He doesn't have the 49ers defense, the Patriots defense to bail him out. So I think the great difficulty is actually tougher for him, because if he has a really bad game like he did, I'll go right back to that Jets game.
Yeah.
His defense will bail him out, and they'll be watching the playoffs from a golf course. So
Yeah.
they're not my Super Bowl pick, but their offense, they do have some weapons. They can put up points. They have been putting up points, and if it gets to be a shootout, they can win those games. But if they're relying on the defense to win them a game, they're gonna be in trouble.
Ryan, what about you?
I think he blows. I think his ask for $40 million is absurd.
Insane.
I think him, Goff, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, and I even hate to say this, but hate me for it, Deshaun Watson. You cannot bet or predict what is going to come out of them any given Sunday with confidence and figure out if they're going to. You can even have Matt Ryan for that. I mean, Matt Ryan blew the first 5 games this year, and the last 2 he's looked great.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
How can you pay somebody or put faith in somebody that much that flip a coin and figure out what's going to happen?
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
You never know. And
well, on that note, what do you guys think with Dak and himself? I mean, this offseason, it's a big one for the Cowboys. They've got a lot to think about. Do you think Dak gets the contract that he's asking for? Do you think the Cowboys are going to end up caving and giving it to him? I don't think anything's going to happen this year, obviously, but does he end up getting franchised? What do you think happens with Dak?
I think he gets the contract, and I think he gets his money because Jerry Jones is an idiot and paid Tony Romo, who should have been paid way more to be an analyst versus a quarterback. They were an 8-8 team at best with him. And, I mean, he made, I think, 2 playoffs. He sucked.
Yeah.
When crunch time came, he was a mediocre regular season quarterback, and I think Dak's going to be the same thing. And if you look at DeMarcus Murray, Zeke, there's one other one, I'm drawing a blank. But the old line for Dallas has carried them and made their running backs look great. I don't think when they go outside that offense, line, I think they suck.
Yeah. What about you, John? What do you think happens with Dak? You think he gets that contract?
I think he gets franchise tagged. I think he's going to be on the Cowboys. I don't think he's going to get that $40 million he wants. So I think the Jerry Jones, who I agree, kind of gets too close to the players and overpays. I think this time, though, after paying Zeke, I think he franchise tags. Still going to be a lot of money, probably more than he should get. Let's be real. But I think he's not going to. So he's going to franchise tag him. Now, how Dak reacts to that? Does Dak just say, "Okay, I'm still getting paid a good sum of money. I don't got to sell my house, and now I just play." And for the next contract, that's the bigger question is, does he sulk? Some guys get that paycheck or pay raise and then they don't play well. So I think he's going to be a Cowboy. It's just at what price level, the franchise tag level, or does Jerry cave at 40? I'm going to put money on the franchise tag. From what I hear, Jerry's not going to be able to or want to pay the $40 million. He also doesn't want he doesn't want to lose them either. So I think that's where the franchise tag saves him. That's his kind of in case of emergency break glass.
Yeah, well,
thing.
I mean, I'll agree with you there. I think he ends up franchised. I think eventually he gets whatever the insane amount of money he wants is. I'm sure Jerry will eventually spit it out, as John did show. He does have a 104 passer rating and 68% completions. But that's the problem that scares me, is that you've got those good numbers and they just, I don't know, they don't look that nice. Maybe it's just the eye test. It's just not passing it to me. But we will
win.
Yeah, and
In
I
the
just
playoffs.
yeah, yeah, you got that right. But I mean, with the 40 million part, I don't even personally, I don't think any quarterback's worth it. I can't wait till we hit this wall where we start to pay some other positions and the quarterbacks start to drop a little bit. But I do think Dak probably does end up getting close to that. But I do think he probably gets franchised a year first. But it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I look at these games like today against Detroit, and it's a game that if you're gonna win, make 40 million. I don't know. That should be a game that you really show out in. But anyway, Ryan, before we let you go, man, I know I'm in your group sit cards and everything, and I see it all the time. You've got your top 10, and you put it out every single week, and it's pretty good. So while you're on the show, why don't you give us a top 10 preview? I know all the games haven't played yet, obviously, so I know you can't give us the whole one, but any ideas, any movers and shakers this week?
Saints will be number 1. Ravens will be
Wow.
number 2. Probably the Pats number 3. Depending on tomorrow and what I see from Mahomes, Green Bay or KC and Kansas City are batting for 4, 5, and 6.
Nice. So you got the Saints at number 1.
I'm not going to bury them for their weird game against the Falcons, but Drew Brees, he's been there. He knows what has to happen when it comes to playoff time. And that's more what I'm thinking with when I put them together is who's actually going to make it. I personally think they're going to make it in the NFC. Come to the AFC, I want to see what's going to happen if the Ravens or us have home field advantage. We lose another game, they have home field advantage. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not confident if we have to go to Baltimore and beat them come late January, early February to beat them. But if they have to come here, I like our chances a lot more. So that's kind of where I'm hesitant. So we have to show up the next few weeks and make sure that we secure it, because if we go there, it's a 50-50 game.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. John, when you hear that top 10, you got Saints at number 1 with Ryan. What do you think?
Man, I hate to say this, it really stings, but the Ravens are playing now. It's just they be on my number 1, and I do everything I could not to write them in at that one spot, but you can't argue with it right now. Lamar Jackson's starting to throw the ball better.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing pretty good, so it hurts. It really does hurt. It actually does. Like, I'm going to go take a shower right after the show, but I go Ravens. I think the Saints, I don't know. They're not a dominating team. I think your one's got to be a team that's dominating right now. I don't put them. They're a very good team, and they're probably in the top 3 or 4. But I mean, my one right now would be the Ravens. And again,
that's where I'd be. That's where I would be. Okay. What's that?
He broke up a little bit for me. I didn't hear. So he said Ravens 1, and then
Who'd you have it 2, John?
Who would I put at 2?
Yeah.
I think the Patriots in that mix. I don't think they're not blowing people out, but they just win games.
Yeah,
they find a way to win games. Belichick's probably the best coach, makes adjustments. So they're always going to be a tough out. They either win the Super Bowl or they're very tough out. So I put them at 2.
Nice. Okay, yeah, I that was a shock, Ryan. I did not expect to hear you say the Saints at 1. I mean, I guess looking at it, they've got to be. It's probably my Panther bias. I just don't want to say they're number 1. It hurts, but they might be. I'm personally with you, John. I love the Ravens. I've fought so hard not to like them, and every single big game that they've played, I've just expected them to shit the bed, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'd have to go with the Ravens. But Ryan, man, I guess we're gonna let you go here while we wrap everything up today, and we'll be getting you in here sometime soon, and definitely in the playoffs, so we can have that Jimmy Garoppolo funeral.
We will.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for stopping back in.
All right, see you guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
And once again, that was Ryan Durkee. So John's always nice when people call in. Guys, more than welcome to call in. I'm going to put it up right now so you guys do have the link. Just click it. Call in. Come in. Tell us how full of shit we are. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, he's kind of shy, and he's very vague with what he feels.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we should have him back in to make sure he could clarify. But so I wanted to move on to something with you. I wanted to touch on it before he called in. I really wanted to lead the show with it, but kind of got off track a little bit. And then we're gonna go all the way back to Thursday. I guess it's a good thing we didn't start the show with it, because that's all everybody's been talking about all weekend, it seems. But Myles Garrett against your good old Steelers. The hit against Mason Rudolph, obviously, and the suspension afterwards. Being a Steeler fan, I've talked to you a little bit about it, so I know a little bit about how you feel, and I probably don't even need to ask. But when you look at this Myles Garrett hit, you look at the whole thing that happened, the whole fight if you want to, and then the suspensions afterward. Was it the right call? And, what were your first impressions? You were leaving to Toronto, so I didn't want to bother you, and I wanted to save it for the show. So I really don't even know the answer to this.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched and been a football fan for a long time. We've seen balls and melees on the field before. This isn't uncharted territory, but to take somebody's helmet off and literally swing it as a defensive lineman full force in an attempt to crack it over someone's skull. I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic, and he landed. It just wasn't flush. I mean, that could have been.
Oh yeah,
that could have had tragic consequences. I mean, someone could have been killed. Rudolph again, or seriously injured, and he just lost. He just lost his mind. I mean, let's be real. He said this himself. He lost his mind, and I mean, when you hear about someone pressing or where police can get involved in something that happens on the field, that just goes to show you what level this is at.
Yeah.
There's been punches thrown at each other, even with helmets off, and you don't hear about assault charges, but you hear that in this case, and I don't think we have to go to that, but the fact that it's even in the conversation tells you what level this is. And you know what? I know he's not the favorite guy in the world, and I kind of am a sort of a Baker Mayfield apologist and kind of like him, but I really appreciated. I don't know if you saw his interview right after that game, and I appreciated his candidness. He basically said what Myles Garrett did hurt the team. It was uncalled for. It was unnecessary, and he can't have that. And he didn't take that medium role. Well, there's two sides to the story, and he just said we can't do that, and he's right. You can't, and so he's definitely got to sit out the year. See how he handles it. Not playing what he said right now. He's being very apologetic and whatnot. And I think past that you revisit. I don't think you go into next season unless he really takes a stance and just doesn't take ownership of what he did, which he's already started to. So I don't really see him doing a 180 now.
Well, I'm glad he doesn't take another 180, because I think that's one reason the suspension was indefinite, was because his initial apology, or quote unquote apology after the game, Baker's might have been good. His was total horseshit. So it's nice to see that he did, eventually the next day come out and finally start to say something along the lines of "I'm sorry." But I think the suspension's more than justified, more than fair. It's what I expected. I don't want to. It sucks that this is going to stick with this kid, because I think he's probably a great kid. I've heard nothing but good things about him. Obviously, he's not somebody with a history of all of this. And unfortunately, he's going to be saddled with this like a Artest or a Bertuzzi. You go back to hockey. I always go right back to hockey with the stick to the head. I mean, it's the same type of stuff, except for this time. This time he ripped the dude's helmet off first. And I saw a video of, I think it was just a couple of college kids just taking like a wooden chair and setting it right down, taking a helmet, an actual NFL helmet, and swinging it very softly, but swinging it with authority right down onto a chair, and it splits the chair in half. I mean, it splits the chair, breaks the seat. So, I mean, a helmet is an incredibly deadly weapon, especially when it's swung by someone like that. So I think the suspension is more than justified. I hate that he's saddled with being this person for so long, but, I mean, it's just shit you can't do. Just like Brad says right here, you do that at your job, you get fired. This is he's not going to... I think he'll be back next year. I guess he's indefinitely suspended, which... I mean, that'd be the case at some jobs. I guess it depends on where you work. But I don't know. What do you see? Do you see him suiting up week 1 next year?
I think so. And I think you answered this yourself too, Drew. He doesn't have a track record.
No, nothing.
He's not Ndamukong Suh or Vontaze Burfict. Okay. Yeah. If we're talking about them doing this.
They're done. They're gone. They're gone.
Yeah. So I think his non-history of doing, pretty dirty stuff is in his favor. If he's one of those two type of guys, like you just said, that their careers probably over. They're playing in the XFL or the CFL.
Yeah. No, 100%. Even if he's half of a Burfict or somebody that has any type of incident in the past, I think this goes a lot farther than it did. And Logan points out something right here about the NFL handling it fast. I loved the way they handled the situation. They love to fuck shit up all the time, and I can't stand how they do a lot of stuff. But this situation, I thought, was excellent. They say there's more punishment still to come. Normally, they do all the suspensions on a Tuesday after the week. So I guess there's still room for more to come, but I like getting this one out there. I mean, really the next morning, as soon as we woke up, they knew talk shows. They knew every single one was going to be talking about it, which they were, and we still are. So they knew they had to get something out. They acted quick, fast, so there was no speculation. There was no, are they going to do this, that, all false information coming out. I thought they handled it tremendously well.
Yeah, they were quick, which I think they needed to be. When a story from the NFL is making it onto regular broadcast news.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a big story. They got out ahead.
Yeah, if it's not an amazing catch, and you're on CNN, there's a problem. Yeah, you got to fix it.
So yeah, we'll see. I like you said, I think there's going to be some other stuff. I don't think I know Mason Rudolph got fined, and I think there's going to be some other stuff coming. I'm going. I don't know if you knew this. I mentioned it on my Facebook page, but I'm actually going to on December 1st. The Browns are in Pittsburgh, and I had tickets for that game months ago. So it's not where I bought them now after this. I had them. And so now that game takes on a whole new perspective.
Awesome.
And I'll be there to I don't foresee, especially after it happened with these two teams. There's no way.
No.
Anything happens again. But you know what? There'll be some incentive. You're obviously both teams want to. The Browns want to prove that the first game was no fluke, and the Steelers want to exact obviously some revenge. So it might be a little chippy, but not dirty. And so
it's gonna be chippy. I guarantee you it won't be like this. But if the Browns come out in any way, shape, or form, I don't care about the Browns. Really, love them, hate them. They're nothing to me, really. But those guys came out in that game. It felt to me every single time that the Browns and Steelers play now, it feels to me like they're that little brother that's finally been working out at the gym with his friends a little bit, and he's ready to go test the big brother finally. And he might go out there and throw a couple cheap shots in, whatever he has to do to win. But that's what it reminds me of, because I've watched other Browns games. Their energy is not there. It's non-existent. You go into this game, they're swinging for the fences. They're taking people's heads off, literally taking helmets off and swinging them at people. I mean, I think it's going to be chippy, but I did not know that you're going. That's awesome. So Roughing the Passer will have an inside guy there.
And I will be on the show from my hotel room in Pittsburgh, because
nice.
on Monday morning. So I'll give a live review of the game and the whole nine. So
awesome. So let's see. I don't know if you're suspended. Can you buy tickets? I don't think you can. I was gonna say you and Myles Garrett could come sit with you. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm sure that conversation would be interesting, to say the least.
Absolutely. All right, yo. So we'll move on now to a couple other games that we haven't touched on. And John, I guess I got to talk about it for a little bit. And that, of course, is the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to lead with that because I don't want to lead with the other direction of this. So the Atlanta Falcons with 2 impressive wins in a row. Absolutely shit whipping my Panthers today. I don't even remember the final score. I really don't want to look at the scoreboard again to find out. No, 29-3. Yeah, a lot to a little. And Kyle Allen played like total horse shit. But the big thing that I see out of this, really, man, 2 wins in a row. You absolutely beat the crap out of the Saints. Then you come beat the crap out of the Panthers. That's 2 big division wins right off of a bye. I can't believe I'm about to put this up on the board, but is Dan Quinn's job now safe? Has the hot seat cooled?
A couple things. I think the hot seat has cooled. I don't think he's completely safe. I think he should pay us. I think for reverse psychology, we might have saved them. I think if obviously if they play like this the rest of the way, left. If they go 3-2 or better, he might get saved. If they go 3-2, and even if the 2 games they lose, they're very competitive in those 2 losses. I think he might escape and see the sideline next year. If they go 2-3, 1-4, then I think he's gonna make. I think what's gonna happen now is gonna make it through the season, and it's gonna be. I think this last 5 games is really an audition for his job. Yeah. I think it's a 5-game season.
I completely agree with you. And those 2 division wins were nice, especially the one in Carolina being on the road. But a lot of those games that you were just talking about, they're about to have to turn right around and play them again. And the Saints, say what you will, that was an abnormality of a game for them. I don't see the Panthers playing that badly against them again. They've got a tough schedule left, but I don't know. Dan Quinn, man, some of these NFC South coaches, they've got 9 lives. Him and Ron Rivera. I just don't know. Every single year they should lose their job, and somehow the hot seat keeps cooling. I don't know. But the Panthers really disappointed me today. I mean, I guess we shouldn't really be surprised. It's Kyle Allen. He's a backup. He's played 2 weeks like a backup. I think the last 3 games after starting, I remember when he started, everyone was saying his only problem is he doesn't throw interceptions. I think the last 3 games, he's thrown 3 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So that's kind of flip-flopped quite a bit. But tons of problems in Carolina. And this game was one of those, if we were going to do our Thursday pick show this week, this was going to be one of those games where I was going to tell you, like, I had a feeling that Carolina was going to come out and lay a game like this. And sure enough, that's what they did.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I think Kyle Allen's showing that he's probably not going to be the guy after Cam Newton. And, now, what do you do here? Do you put Will Greer in and say, well, what do we got here? How far away? How far? Well, you got to find out what you got, though. I mean, if you draft them, I hear you. But so's Kyle Allen, it looks like, too. So who's the better one?
Will Greer, he could be fine in a couple years. I don't want Will Greer to touch the field this year. I want him to stay far as hell away from it. Maybe next year. If we're still struggling next year, maybe throw him in at the end of the year. But no, if Kyle Allen, you wanted to ride this wave, Kyle Allen needs to stay the hell in there. Will Greer does not need to touch the field this year. I pray they do not put him in because it's going to be absolutely awful. Yes, Ryan, they do have tape on him now, and he's just a fucking backup. He's regressing to the mean. It's going to happen. It was bound to happen to anyone that watched any of his games. It's just I don't think you can put Greer in at all. I don't know. Maybe it's because I want him to succeed, and there's no way if you put him in right now, especially the way Carolina's defense is playing and the games we've got coming up. I don't know. Maybe when they're eliminated from the playoffs, maybe week 16 or week 17, but no. You ride Kyle Allen and you let him prove he's not worth the consideration of the starting job next year. Just let him keep digging that hole.
What do you do, though? Do you go out and trade or get Bridgewater? What's the what do you do?
Well, the quarterback for next year is not on our roster. I said that to you before, probably on this show. I don't think our quarterback next year is on our roster yet. I think he probably goes into free agency, or I doubt the draft. And Greer might get an audition at that shot. I don't think it'll be many games. If you do it this year, it's going to be this year, and then he's going to be ruined. It's going to be Josh Rosen or any other countless quarterbacks that you put in when they're not ready. But I think he could grow to be pretty good, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything from him. So Will Greer's just a big question mark, but I don't know. You've got to bring in a couple of different people. I think Cam does get traded. I think he gets traded fast, probably in March. But I don't know who the quarterback in Carolina is. I guarantee you he's about to hit the free agency market. He's probably playing in one of these games. I just hope it's not Mitch Trubisky or somebody like that. But
he went to North Carolina. Maybe he's coming back home.
Nah, he can stay the fuck out of this state. Speaking of, Rams are beating the Bears 10-7 with 3 minutes left in the third. Yes, exactly, Ryan. Right there, exactly. Haskins is thrown into an awful situation, and it's got a chance to potentially destroy him. When we first started this show, I talked a lot with you, John, about how key confidence is early. It's what speared Minshew on that role that he was on. Had he gone in and struggled a couple of games and didn't get that confidence up, he doesn't go on that run and does not have the beginning of the year he has. And putting Greer in right now, there are way too many holes. He's not prepared to handle any of this. I think he's got to stay far away until at least next year.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you, but today's NFL is a lot different than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
I know.
And I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan. I really didn't think he was going to play to the level he is. But, you get these even third or fourth round draft pick quarterbacks, they can, some of them improve them. They can play from the get go. And I get the confidence thing, but I also, you want to drive the car a little bit. Maybe you put it back in the garage. You know what I mean? It doesn't handle real well, and you park it. But I say you drive it. One game, even if it's a bad game, if it damages the confidence that much, one bad game, then that's more than a talent issue.
That's why I'm saying week 17 is fine. You want to throw him in at the end of the year just to see what he's learned throughout the season when we are probably far from mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, from the way it's looking, at least. That's where it looks like we're headed. You want to throw him in a game like that, that's fine. That's completely different. I'm talking about right now, throwing him in next week, the week after, if Kyle Allen struggles, when we're still technically in a quote unquote divisional race and playoff push. I don't know. It seems way too dangerous to me. I think, especially when Kyle Allen has shown that he can come back from a bad game every now and then and have a good one. Now he's unfortunately had a couple in a row. Let's see if he can change it now. But I don't know. I still think I just don't see the quarterback of the future in Carolina being on our roster right now. And the only thing I know for certain about this whole situation is Cam Newton will not be. That's it. I mean, that's the only thing I know for certain is Cam Newton will not be our starting quarterback and won't be on the roster.
Yeah, well, I guess now the priorities, if you're going to trade them, get a quarterback in return.
Yeah.
I think you almost have to do that. And, something you can hang your hat on and maybe catch lightning in a bottle with. Who that is, I don't know the answer to that, but
yeah,
that'll be the $1 million question.
At least here in Carolina it will be. But so before we move on to stock up, stock down, man, one thing I wanted to touch on real quick, and I just mentioned Minshew when I was talking about Kyle Allen. And obviously, that Nick Foles is starting for Jacksonville again. Jacksonville goes into Indy, a team that is struggling, a team that has not been playing good at all. And they get absolutely destroyed, 33-13. So did the Jags make a mistake by pulling Minshew, and do they need to go back to Minshew?
Here's what I'll say. Foles is a guy, not obviously today doesn't back up what I'm about to say, but Foles is a guy kind of like what happened in Philadelphia. If you're a playoff team that can make a run, and it's him and Minshew, then you go with Foles. I don't think Jacksonville is that team, so I think you turn to Minshew. The problem is Foles makes a shit ton of money. Let's be real. And then, so what do? I think you got to trade him if someone's willing to take that contract. And so, if Jacksonville was a playoff team, 7-3. And looking like they're a quarterback away from making a deep run into the playoffs, I say Foles is the answer.
Wow.
They don't look like that. So Minshew's is probably the way you go, but $40 million quarterbacks don't really watch a lot of football as much as lesser ones do. So they got to find a suitor who's willing to take that contract. The good news for him is your team being one of them. There's good 5-6 teams that need a viable starting quarterback. So I think there will be suitors if that's the direction they want to go.
Well, you shocked me right there. I agree with your answer. I think they should go back to Minshew. But I don't give a shit how much you pay people. If it comes down, if you're stupid enough to pay somebody like Nick Foles that type of money, then I don't know. I don't really care. I just find that a dumb management decision. Focus more on wrestling. That's all the Jaguars owners care about right now. Anyways, but I think you have to go back to Minshew, and I think you let him and you ride him through a playoff run if he can make it, and you just see what happens. I mean, I don't see Nick Foles. To me, it seems like Nick Foles has no command of this. Like, the team doesn't feel like they rally around him. When you watch highlights of Minshew in the game, the body language, everything feels different, and that's what I'm looking at. Ryan, why Foles or Minshew? Which one is it? Guess we let you go too early. But I mean, I think it's got to be Minshew. I don't see how you go back to Foles. But then again, I'm not thinking about it from a financial standpoint either. I think that's just screw the money. I'm looking at it from a strictly.
Yeah.
You're Jacksonville. Okay, Ryan, he sucks. So,
I think everybody.
And hey, well, wait a minute. He played at East Carolina for 2 years. I booed him off the field for quite a while. I know he sucks. I know he's had a long time where he sucked. But there's these quarterback. Oh, Foles. Yeah, well, Minshew has 2. Foles does suck. I think Foles is terrible. I think he's not worth any of the damn money, and I can't believe he was paid that to begin with. And I didn't think he would work in Jacksonville at all. But Minshew, I mean, yeah, he was terrible in college until he went to the quarterback whisperer. But I think you have to stick with him. I don't see how. I thought they made a major mistake when they went back to Foles. It showed up on the scoreboard today, and the team just looks like they have no. I don't know. They don't seem to rally around him at all.
There's an old saying in football. I'm assuming you probably heard this, but if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If no one is really sitting the other one down and earning all the playing time, the adage is that you don't really have a full modified starter. So I tend to agree with that for the most part. I know in college they might use 2 different type quarterbacks or 2 different type of offensive schemes, but they don't do that in the NFL. So when you're talking about 2 guys, you're really saying neither one of them has taken the reins and closed the door on the other, and so that's where the problem lies. And that's why I answered the way I did. I think if you're a playoff team with a shot, you go with the experienced guy. When you're not looking like that, which they're not, I think you go and see what do we got, Minshew. Can we hang our hat there, or do we got to look somewhere else for another guy completely?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So we'll move on now, buddy. Before we wrap everything up today, we got to go back into our stock up, stock down segment. So I'll let you kick it off this week. We'll dive right into stock up. Who do you have for stock up this week? And since we went a little long today, we'll just go with one each.
All right. You're not going to like it. It was a guy in your game, not on the Panthers, but a guy I really like. Cards-wise, I've got a lot of his stuff. That's how much I like him. He's been sort of quiet this year, but this year, this game, he showed up big. 8 catches, 143 yards. It's Calvin Ridley.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Calvin Ridley. Keep going. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, and I think now that they moved Sanu to the Patriots, he's moved up, and it's him and Julio now, and I really see him sort of like Julio 2.0. He's just kind of a younger version of him, and I like him.
Yeah, Ridley balled out today, and he's going to keep balling out against the Panthers if we keep lining Dante Jackson up against him. Ridley has had Dante Jackson's number since all the way back in college. He whooped his ass all the time in college. He whooped his ass the first couple times. He's just kept doing this, and he keeps getting better and better against him, and for some reason we keep sticking Dante Jackson on him. I don't get it. I don't know why it keeps happening, but we do. He had an amazing game today. anytime he plays the Panthers, if you play DFS, start him. In a couple of weeks when we play, start him because we'll be dumb enough to throw Dante Jackson on him, and he'll probably burn him for 8 catches again. For my stock up this week, I'm going with a guy that I left for dead a couple of weeks ago, but apparently I was wrong, and that's Kirk Cousins. The dude just playing absolute lights out football, getting another much needed and very big win today over the Broncos, 27-23. Struggled against the Broncos a lot more than I thought. Let him hang around, but then, when it counts, Cousins came through big yet again, finally starting to show that maybe he wasn't taking all that money and then quitting.
Yeah, this is a game, like I said, coming back from Canada, I listened pretty much to this whole game, the radio call of it. And Minnesota had no running game whatsoever. It was bad. And I'm not saying Kirk Cousins, Joe Montana, but he really carried this team, especially in the second half, on his back. And even the announcers were saying this is it. Kirk Cousins is willing this team to win himself. And I know he takes a lot of heat. I think he's a very good quarterback.
I do too.
A great quarterback. No. And like, someone could argue, but they don't win today's game without him. And they won. It wasn't pretty, like you said. It doesn't have to be pretty as long as you get that W and they're on to next week. And he takes a lot of heat. So when he plays like today, you got to tip your hat to him.
No, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of that heat is, when you get paid that all that type of money, then expect to get criticized, especially when you don't perform right out of the gate. That's something, especially in today's culture, you got to perform. If you're going to get paid that type of money, you better come out week 1 and prove it. 5 touchdowns right away or immediately. People are going to jump off board, and some of them you're never going to win back. It's just the way it is today. I think Cousins is, like I said, I left him for dead a couple of weeks ago. I had him on the stock down list, I think, on one of our first shows, and I wouldn't have dreamed that he would be back up here. I thought they were done. I thought he was just another one of those cautionary tales of why I think quarterbacks don't need to be paid near that much money. But now he's kind of proven me wrong. So maybe Dak deserves $50 million. What the hell do I know? But Cousins definitely on my stock up, man. He's proven me wrong. I definitely have to say I was completely wrong about him.
Yeah, and they're now in the mix to be a team in the NFC that could make a run.
No, absolutely. So let's move on to stock down. Who you got for stock down this week, buddy?
Let's stay in the quarterback room. And, we talked a little bit about a guy that won a Super Bowl on this team. And it's Carson Wentz, 74.4 quarterback rate, only 214 yards. And, you read some of the news reports, he's not garnering that locker room. He doesn't command that locker room. He has some of his receivers kind of bad talking him. And so there's problems there. But the other problem is they don't have a Nick Foles behind him to bail him out. Now he's the guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he is the guy. And I thought I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I thought he was going to be at one point, but each week I'm leaning less that, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's great. And good doesn't get you very far in the postseason unless your defense is absolutely like lights out. And even then, it doesn't always work. So Philly's got problems. I know they played the Patriots today. I understand that, but he hasn't played good most of this year. This wasn't a 1 week. This is kind of a season achievement low award. Is that he's just not seeming to get it done. His receivers anonymously, which I think is pretty cowardly, but it's still happening. Are saying he doesn't work as hard as he should. His work, questioning his work ethic.
Yeah.
When you got guys doing that, that's usually not a good sign. And one report said they pared a playbook down for him because he can't grasp the whole playbook, and that's not good commentary. So I just wonder, again, another team that's got to be thinking quarterback. Now, I don't think they're going to go out and replace him yet, but there's probably some whispering like, what if this is what Carson Wentz is, and that's not going to be good enough? And now we're in the market for hopefully who we thought was a franchise quarterback's not. Now we got to try to find another. And there's no Nick Foles in that room anymore. And to kind of save.
I love that pick. I love that pick, and that's surprising. I did not know that you were going with Wentz. I did not tell me that beforehand. I love it. I think that's a great pick. And I have a lot of questions about Carson Wentz. I have for a long time. I always have, and I think a lot of it has to do with, and you know this especially because if you're in the hobby world, especially with the way you pay so much attention and you've got a lot of money invested in these people, and you see all this stuff come around that. I don't know. We jump on these guys so early and are just so convinced on how we know their career is going to go so early. And we just think it's a given. And I think you're seeing now that these are problems he had all along that were masked by a lot of other things. But one being a very good team behind him. But like you said, there is no Foles behind him. But I've always been worried about Wentz. I've never been completely convinced on him. And this game, I mean, I know he's playing the Patriots. The Patriots can make anybody look bad. That defense is absolutely insane. But this was basically just a primetime 4 p.m. Sunday game, a microcosm of the whole season, of all of his problems. This was not a one-off where the Patriots exploited a bunch of things that no one else has done. This has been Wentz, and if I'm Philly, I'm concerned.
Yeah, he just a little sloppy today. I guess for the game, I also listened to the radio call. He was holding the ball too long. I can tell that from the radio broadcast. I think he fumbled twice.
Yep.
And you do that against any team, you're in trouble. You do that against the Patriots, you're not going to win. Yeah. And I don't think the Patriots particularly played well, but when Wentz plays like that, you can still beat a team like that. And that's exactly what happened. And Philly was my pick. I'm gonna be honest. I was a Wentz guy. I believed in him. I picked him.
Oh, okay.
The NFC representative, and if we did that today, I'd do a complete 180. I was wrong. I'll say it right now, I was wrong. This team not. I don't know if they make the playoffs, and even if they do, they're not going very far. So, I was wrong. I'm wrong sometimes. Apparently,
it's all right, John. It's okay, buddy. I know it doesn't happen much. It's okay. I promise. No, I completely agree with you. But all right, on to my stock down. And this one, I mean, there's really no other way to put it. I'm going to the Dallas and Detroit game, but I'm going with Dallas's defense. And for one reason. And that is that Detroit scored 27 fucking points. Jeff Driscoll scored 27 points. It's absurd. Dallas, they've got a lot of fucking problems, starting at the quarterback. But this is a game. Detroit with Jeff Driscoll should have been shit whipped all around this football field. Instead, you get a competitive game that I don't know. We talked about this game earlier, and we talked about Dak all the time. But my God, Dallas's defense, they do him zero favors. That's why I think Dallas is going to really struggle because the quarterback and defense are just a big problem. But the entire Dallas defense to me today, you let Jeff Driscoll do that. Every NFC team and every team that has to play them is looking at this right now and saying, "Oh my God, like okay, let's go down to Jerry's World. This is going to be fun." I mean, this could get bad for Dallas.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'll go to the other side too. I mean, Detroit's D. You hire Matt Patricia, defensive guru.
Yeah.
Their defense looks just the same as it has been even the years before Patricia was there.
Yep.
He even brought over guys from the Patriots
I know.
and installed them. And I'm not saying that he was going to make Detroit into the defense he had in New England, but they looked literally the same defense they've had for the last 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so if you bring a guy in, you expect to have a little bit of that rub off on what his specialty is, which is defense. And it's not. And I'm not just talking today. It's for the most part, it's been all year. It's been the 2 years he's been there. So both of these teams defensively have got issues, and I'm a little surprised. I'm not saying Detroit's even a playoff team, but the fact their defense hasn't even taken one step up after bringing Matt Patricia in, that's a problem. And I said this, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Don't be surprised he goes back to New England and returns as coordinator.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, and that is a big thing when you get somebody in like Patricia, and he's gotten time now to get his guys in. They were really big in Detroit on really letting him fill that staff out and bringing in the people he wanted. This is not him saddled with a bunch of people that he was just thrown together with. This is a lot of his team that's in there in Detroit. I mean, I know obviously you got Stafford down and everything, but that's not defense, like you said. The defensive side of the ball in Detroit looks awful, and they have a lot to be worried about.
Yeah, I don't know, Patricia. Like I said, we talked on this very show about coaches that are better coordinators than head guys.
Ron Rivera.
And the Norv Turners and those type of guys, and Dan Quinn, even if you want to keep his name, which I think you have to.
100%.
I'm thinking Matt Patricia's now got his pass for that club, and the good thing for him is I think he could go. Bill Belichick would take him back with open arms.
Absolutely.
So he's sort of got a parachute here to jump out of this plane, or if the plane pilot pushes him out, in other words, he gets fired. He's gonna pull the cord and land probably safely in Foxborough. So, I don't know about his assistants. His assistants probably have more to worry about than he does, because they're going to be probably unemployed longer than he will be. So I think he's looking more like a really good defensive coordinator, not a really good head coach.
Yeah, and that that parachute you were talking about, that is that Bill Belichick coaching tree. That is his parachute. That's his. He'll get on somewhere, wherever it is. But I'm with you. I think he's probably best as a coordinator, and I'm blown away at the lack of improvement. I thought that's where they would actually really. I mean, just like with the Panthers, I expect their defense. They could easily be on my damn stock down list. You expect them with Ron Rivera. They should be better. We talk about this all the time, but they're not. But yet another, we'll see what happens with Detroit. It's going to be an interesting rest of the season, which I guess starting next week, man. Before we wrap up, we'll talk about next week and everything moving on. Next week, by the way, guys, shit whip of the week will return. Everything will get back to normal. John obviously just got back from Toronto.
I think the shit whip of the week, I hate to say it, it's probably Myles Garrett with the helmet. I mean, I don't think you're going to top that. So.
No, and we don't need to show that for the 5,000th time. I know everyone's seen that 80 times, so we'll save you guys till next week for that. But so that'll be back next week. We will be back this Thursday with the with our picks and preview show. We'll go over all of our picks from this week once all these games are over. It's looking right now. the Rams just can't seem to get rid of the Bears. Is it still 10-7 in the fourth quarter? So who knows how that game's going to turn out. But we will be back next week, guys. But in the meantime, a new episode of Let Me Get That Potograph will be out on Tuesday. And John, I know right before you left, you dropped a pretty big episode of your show. I know it's out. It was a great one. I'll let you tell everybody a little bit about it.
Yeah, we celebrated our first year on the air, if you will. We, you yourself, some other people I really respect. I didn't have a guest, but I had some sound clips from people I like and love that came in and wished the show well. We gave away 34 prizes. Don't get used to that. That's a 1-year deal. So, we're back to normal next week. But, next Friday we'll have Jimmy Mahan on. You had him on your show yourself a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to have him on. We recorded the interview already. It's going to come out this week, and really great guy. And,
Man, Jimmy's everywhere right now, dude. Jimmy's on CNN talking about that card. That Zion card's got a lot of attention since he started coming on a couple of these shows, man. Good time to have him on.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the hobby at this point, probably.
Nope.
People not in the hobby at this point have heard about Lisa Card and him, and really great guy. And the interview that I did with him, I'll keep it brief. But the interview I did with him, it was very little that card. Obviously, we talked about that card, but it was really about a lot of the other things he does and what he's about. And I think people appreciate it.
Good deal. Yeah, it's a great episode, guys. That's the Sports Card Nation podcast, so definitely go check that out. But guys, thanks so much for hanging out and spending your Sunday evening with us yet again. And John, I'm glad you made it back from Toronto safely, my friend. And we'll see how these picks lay out, and we'll talk to everybody on Thursday.